Hello and welcome to another edition of Messi & Co. here on 5 Reasons Sports. I am your host, Austin Robillard, and today, of course, joined by our other great hosts here on the English side, Gian and Ashley. Welcome, guys. Wow, do we have so much to talk about. It's been a while since I've been on an English episode. Everybody on Messi & Co. through my vacation was doing an amazing job. All the content every single day. It's been outstanding, and there's just been so much to follow. It's been not hard to keep up with, but like it is just every day, every second, there's something going on with Lionel Messi and Inter Miami, and we are blessed to have it happening here in South Florida. Guys, how are you doing? How is your initial feelings after Miami's couple of League Cup games so far? Gian, I'll start with you.
I'm very happy. I feel like everything that I expected to happen has happened and more. I expected this team to improve, and it's done that, and it surpassed my expectations. And just watching this team have fun, watching the players be confident, and watching all the magic that comes from Messi, the fans having a blast. It's just a great moment, and I really just can't wait to talk about it today, and excited for what's to come.
Ashley, has it like met your level of expectation? Like I know we talked so much, we had about a month from when we started Messi & Co. up until when he finally debuted. Everything that we talked about in that month on the multiple episodes to where we are right now, is this kind of going as you expected, or has it exceeded that?
Honestly, exceeded. I've luckily been to two of the three games in person with Messi, and I see the goals happening in front of me. I see the one touch passing and the elevated level of play. I see that there's not an empty seat in the house. I see all of the branding and the fireworks, the spectacle. I'm seeing it in person, and it's still like shocking me. Like it's been amazing so far, and I can't wait to see how it continues to evolve and grow.
Yeah, it's been evolving and growing very, very rapidly. That's for sure. All of South Florida sports is this is the focal point now. Whether the Marlins are doing good, the Heat had the draft a couple of weeks ago, going into the Dolphins preseason and the Miami Hurricanes preseason camp. Like it's still Messi is the focus in South Florida. Soccer is the focus in South Florida. The local club is the focus in South Florida, and that's never happened before. And I think it's going to stay like this for quite some time, given the excitement that he brings and the attention that he absolutely deserves to be having. It's just been insane. So with all of that said, let's get right into the last match. Round of 32, Inter Miami made it to the knockout stages after beating Cruz Azul and Atlanta United in their group, and somehow, some way got a home match against Orlando in the first knockout match, which is it's funny the way that it was set up, because obviously everything was set up beforehand, before Messi joined. And this was actually I think this was the only matchup where both winners of the groups would actually face off against each other. It was a little weird because you had Pachuca and LAFC having to go against second place teams. So at one point, two first place teams in the groups would have to go against each other. It just so happened that it ended up being Miami and Orlando, after Orlando, I think, had a last minute winner against Santos Laguna in their final group stage match. So it just seemed like all the cards were aligned, all the stars were aligned, and Messi in a derby was set to happen earlier than expected, and not even in Orlando, which is something that, it's great to have him here down, or have the match down in here, Drive Pink. Man, what a game it was. What a game it was. What a rivalry it was. It lived up to the hype. What from what we saw in this game, Gian, Messi getting into it, Messi putting the pressure on the Orlando players, or Orlando players retaliating. It was a high intensity matchup. Did you expect Messi to get so feisty early on in North America? Like I don't know if I was expecting that.
I definitely wasn't expecting that, but I just want to give props to whoever explained the Orlando Miami rivalry to Messi before the game started, because whoever did that did an amazing job, because he went in there like vicious from the start. He was, man, like he's known to be like someone that's more, like calm and easygoing, but like from the start, he was chirping with everybody. He was going into the body. He was like clashing. So that was exciting to see. I was like, because look, from a soccer standpoint and a soccer fan standpoint, to me, there's nothing better than like a chippy game. Like that is, wow, exciting. So once I saw that, I'm like, this is going to be a really good game. And I will say, it wasn't just Messi. Like they were going in hard at Messi from the beginning. Like I remember like at minute 3, I think it was Araujo that went in hard, like came in on Messi, grabbed him from behind, kicked him a few times. Then like 5-6 minutes later, he stopped the Messi run by getting in front of him with the body, even extended his elbow. So like, I think Messi already went in there with the intention, like, yeah, this is gonna be a hard game. But I mean, they didn't they pretty much followed up with his expectations because they were going in hard at Messi. I think they were trying to get him out of the game, trying to mess with him mentally. But man, Messi stepped up to the plate for sure, and that was an intense, fun game.
And then Araujo ended up scoring like 10, 15 minutes later from all that. So it just heightened it even more. Ashley, with what you saw from Messi and, kind of a lot of the stigma around, him coming here would be like, oh, he's going to take a back seat and relax. And it's going to be, a soft time in South Florida and MLS. He's going to dominate the league. It'll be easy. But has Orlando just now set the precedent for Messi that stuff could get really real really fast? Like, are teams going to come now and try and put the pressure on this side because there's a target on their back? And is Messi going to have to do a lot more physically than he may have realized?
Yeah, I think I agree with Gian, with you, that you felt minute 1. I was saying, I was with my mom and I was like, it was obviously, it rained and it was humid, and the air and the atmosphere was as thick as the humidity. Like, especially I would say from specifically the 35th to the 45th minute, let's just say. But there was the cheering and the chants and everything, but it was silent. Like everyone was so intensely watching. No one was moving. When they were close to goals, you got more action. But I definitely think that Messi was sort of putting his foot down in his way, saying, not only, I'm not just here to just be, like the poster child and Messi, and, everyone just comes and sees me and I, walk around. Gonzalo Higuain, I remember, had a quote, and I'm butchering it, but something saying, I thought I was going to come to MLS and just like walk around and smoke cigarettes and it was going to be easy. And then it wasn't. And, I think this game showed that Messi was like, no, I'm going to be the best anywhere I am. This team is going to be formidable. I think one thing about Messi is that he really believes in the respect of the game and of opponents. He's never really disrespectful to anyone. I remember during the World Cup, the comments after the Netherlands match was really one of the first times in 10, 15 years you actually saw Messi say things that were, almost, negative or disparaging. He doesn't do it. And so when some Orlando City fans had, put the purple on the mural, I think genuinely that's one of those things that he really doesn't like, the distastefulness and the disrespect. And I think from that moment he had a little bit of, on his shoulder, a little chip, and was like, no, this we're going to do things differently here. And it riled up everyone. It riled up the team. It riled up the fans. I think it riled up the MLS community at large, seeing a really good, high level, high intensity soccer game.
Which is what we've come to expect between Miami and Orlando, those high intensity matches, but not necessarily the same kind of quality that Messi possesses in these matches. I mean, it's a whole different, stylistic meaning now with Inter Miami playing a football match. And before these matches, they were still high intensity. The teams were putting pressure on each other. The fans would go at it. I mean, it was always a rivalry, but I think right now, especially after, which we're going to talk about in just a second, after the officiating and the comments from the coaches and everything that we saw on the field, it's maybe not going to be taken to a new level, but it's going to heighten the level that it was already at. And it's going to be a real rivalry here down the stretch for at least the 2.5 years that Messi will be here. I think their next match is in Orlando, September 24th. And I'm sure a lot of eyes will be on that one in Exploria Stadium. But yeah, let's dive into what happened on the field, especially from the refereeing standpoint, because this has been a major talking point. This has been something that has caused a ton of controversy. It's kind of the first time it's actually happened in Messi's first 3 games, where fans of opposing sides and even neutrals have come out and said that Messi is getting unfair treatment and Miami is now getting unfair treatment. Let's just talk about it, because I think it's important to kind of acknowledge the fact that this possibly could be happening consciously or subconsciously. Gian, let's start with the penalty before I get into the yellow cards and everything like that. Was it soft, and did Miami get a little bias from the referee here?
I think that I know that it's very much open to interpretation, so I can't, I won't say that, I'm giving the definitive answer, but I do think it was a penalty, and I do think we got a favorable call. I think that call could have easily gone either way, depending on where the game was played or who the players were in the match, right? In this case, you've got Messi, and I think that Messi and Messi's team is more times than not going to get the favorable call. And I think that Joseph, part of, unfortunately, and depending on who you ask, sometimes I would say even in other sports, part of getting fouled is selling the foul itself, right? Just because there's players that are strong enough, like Messi, that can get fouled and sometimes don't get calls because they don't fall. They're that strong to stay up. But on that specific play, I think that Joseph has a position. The defender very softly, but does wrap his arm. I looked at the play quite a few times. He's able to wrap Joseph's arm. And as soon as Joseph feels the hand on the arm and the slight pull on the arm, yeah, he lets himself fall. I'm sure that Joseph could have kept going. But part of being a professional and being more so even his position, being a center forward in the area, that you're going to try to sell that foul 10 out of 10 times. And I think that's what he did a good job at. What I thought was weird, and I'll be as unbiased as possible, what I thought was kind of strange is the fact that the VAR wasn't even looked at. I will coincide with that. Usually in that play and in that moment, the referee is going to go look at the VAR. He didn't do it. Thought that was strange, but I do think it was a foul. Soft, maybe. Could he have stayed up? Maybe, but he did a good job of selling it for sure.
So it's not. So VAR did come into play. It's just that the referee didn't go and check the monitor, and that's where Oscar Pereira had the problem. And his comments, as you can see below, if you're watching here on YouTube, very, very, very strongly suggesting that there was some kind of bias here at play. And because the referee didn't go to the monitor, but went to the monitor later on in the match to overturn an Orlando goal that would have been meaningless. But again, he did choose to do that. The consistency wasn't there. Oscar Pereira post-match said that the match was a circus, and that was the kind of the quote that stood out to me, but then said that the game was very competitive until the referees got involved in it. Now, do I think that that's necessarily true? No, because if you look at the numbers, Miami had, I think, 72% possession and outshot Orlando in the first half. And in the second half, Orlando didn't even have a shot on target. So I wouldn't say that Orlando were always in this match. I think from the beginning it was competitive and it was rough, but Miami definitely outclassed them. So I don't think that this penalty call would have fully changed the outcome and the result. The score was 3-1, by the way. But again, I do agree with Gian here that, depending on the circumstances, and it kind of is rough that this happens in football, depending on the context of the game, where the game's being played, how the flow of the game is going, this is a decision that can go either way. Now, Ben-Hak Kromeshki put in a great ball to Joseph and put him through on target. That happened. Joseph got past the defender, was in front of the defender and in between the defender and the ball, getting ready to face goal. Any move that the defender makes from body to body is extremely risky. That's just how football goes, especially inside of the 18. So I think that as a defender, you are put in a really tough position, especially there. And any kind of contact that's not made, with the intent of winning the ball is very, very dangerous. And again, as Gian said, he's did a great job. Joseph did a great job at selling the foul. Sure, he might not have needed to fall. And maybe if he took one wrong touch, if he stayed up and went to the outside, probably doesn't score. You don't know what's going to happen. But as a defender, it's a really tough thing to try and manage. And I think that Joseph played his cards extremely right. And I think that a lot of teams would have taken the opportunity to win that kind of a call on their home ground as well. So I don't think 100% that it was, the wrong call, but I do think it could have gone either way. Now, Ashley, I want to point to you and talk about this. The yellow cards. Messi ended up getting one. I think it was in the 30-something minute in the first half. And then there were other chippy moments throughout the game where people are saying that Messi could have probably gotten another one. Sergio Busquets had his hands around the neck of an Orlando player at one point in the match. Did the referee do enough to like control this match, or should there have been more cautions and more disciplinary actions given out by the ref?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was incredibly inconsistent. I think that the initial yellow card on Messi was incredibly harsh. I think the referee was trying to maybe set a precedent, but to use it on Messi seemed silly. I think you could have easily, done it to Carlos Arroyo. You could have done it to Busquets. You could have done it to Kamal Miller. There was definitely other players who accumulated, I think, more fouls in the beginning, that if you wanted to make a stance and say, I know this game will get chippy, I will give out yellow cards, that would probably have been a better player to do it with. Because it's just not realistic to think that you're going to give Messi 2 yellow cards for roughhousing in his 3rd game in MLS with the world watching. Like, it's just not. You can say whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wouldn't give him to Ronaldo. You wouldn't give him to Mbappe. You wouldn't give it to Neymar. You wouldn't give it to Harry Kane. You wouldn't. And so that's just, it was, people can say what they want, but you wouldn't even do it to Carlos Vela, I would say, if we're talking about MLS players. So I think that it was a moot point. And I also think the ref, he was very inconsistent. After that yellow card, we didn't start to see more until like the 60th, 70th minute, right? It took a 40-minute break of giving the cards if he wanted to be a little bit more consistent. I think maybe people would feel differently. And, just to quickly touch on the penalty, I think that because it was given, there was no chance it was going to be overturned. If it was not given, then you could definitely give it a 50-50. But in moments like that, those penalties are sometimes given, they're sometimes not. He was tugged. I was sitting there and I saw him get tugged, and his body force was like pulled back a little. And he fell, and they gave him the penalty. There was no chance it was going to be overturned. They want to go to VAR. I think the VAR said on the headset, I mean, he's pulled, so there's no overturning it. If it was closer, maybe, but yeah. So I understand the inconsistencies. I think giving Messi the yellow card in the beginning of the game was actually the wrong precedent by the referee. I think if he had given someone else a yellow card, literally anyone else, I think he would have actually had more control of the game. And so, I think it's part of the fun. If you want to see Messi, you want to sell out. And like I'll talk about in a little bit, these statistics we have from Apple Plus, and we have from Chicago Fire, and we have from, LAFC about the amount of revenue they're driving to their games for Messi, then you're gonna take the 50-50 calls. I think it's just the world of football.
Yeah, I just want to touch on the inconsistency that you mentioned, Ashley, because I earlier was talking about the fouls on Messi. I misspoke, and it was actually Cartagena that had those 2 consecutive fouls. But even before that, like right at the beginning of the game, minute 3, Araujo actually went studs up on Busquets to Busquets' shin. And how is that not a yellow? But then to your point, Ashley, like Messi's, I'm sorry, like that early first Messi foul, he comes in, like it was not like a yellow worthy foul in my opinion. So it was very inconsistent, like in that situation.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack from the officiating, but nonetheless, I think that we're all in agreement that Miami were the better side. And after a quick word here from myself talking about our sponsor Mosaics, we'll get into more of the positive, happy stuff. So give us 1 second. We'll be right back. Are you ready to transform your space into a masterpiece? Introducing Mosaics, your destination for stones and more. Mosaics is a family-owned business serving the community for over 20 years. With the best quality porcelain, ceramic tiles, and high-end mosaics featuring unique modern designs, Mosaics has everything you need. Dedicated customer service, wholesale distributors, and a passion for excellence. Make sure you visit mosaics.com today to turn your vision into a reality. All right, and that was Mosaics. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. Now let's get into the fun stuff, guys. Messi and Robert Taylor, because this has been a story since the Cruz Azul game after Robert Taylor scored a worldie of an opener. It continued into the Atlanta game where they looked like the most dynamic transitional duo on the planet. And then again, it happens where a Robert Taylor ball over the top to Messi to open the scoring against Orlando. It's just every single game at this point, and Robert Taylor is looking like the best Inter Miami attacker that they've ever had, bar Lionel Messi. What is going on? Is this seriously a duo that's going to continue performing like this for the rest of the season? Is this something that could propel them into the playoffs? Did we think it was going to be Robert Taylor? Like, I am shocked by this. This guy has been playing wing back. He's played as a number 8. He's played as a number 10. He's been put as a winger, all under Phil Neville, and now under Tata Martino alongside Lionel Messi. This guy is one of the best out and out strikers, or I should say attackers on the continent. What is going on right now?
I mean, Ashley, do you want to take this, or I could go? I think we're probably both excited.
I'll say this quickly, and then I'll let you go in more. It doesn't surprise me as much as it surprises, I think, most, and you definitely know this. I mean, he had a fantastic goal last year. It was one of the contenders for goal of the season. Robert Taylor has incredible quality. He's had it from the very beginning. He just hasn't had, the system or maybe the other players to feed him, or for him to feed to see the results. But he has fantastic quality. And so seeing this and having someone like Messi bring it out, it doesn't surprise me. It makes me very happy. I'm glad we held on to Robert Taylor. I was worried he was going to be one of the players that got lost with the the buyouts and the different types of stipulations Inter Miami had to make in order to get the big 3. And so I'm really happy he stayed, because it's the quality. It's fantastic. And when you have a maestro like Messi, not to sound like what was the name of the Scottish
Ray Hudson.
Thank you. I blanked out. Not to sound like Ray Hudson, but when you have that, it's there's unlimited possibility.
Gian.
Yeah, I just think that with Robert Taylor, I think he's always had it in him. It's just that maybe the game plan wasn't necessarily maybe favoring his style of play. I think a lot of the different schemes that were being ran before didn't help him out. I mean, you add Messi, not only does that give you confidence, I think, as a player, but it also slows the game down for you, and you just see it at a different pace. Like, you can tell with Robert Taylor, he just feels so comfortable. He's making a lot of runs that I think he wasn't making in the past because he was not confident in the ball getting to him, right? So, like, he number one, now he's got a ton of open space because all the eyes are on Messi. So, and he knows that it's either going to be Messi or it's going to be Busquets, or even Kremasi's doing a great job playing 10 sometimes, and he's getting really great through balls. So he's making those runs now knowing, I'm pretty sure if I make this run, they're going to read it right, and they're going to put the ball exactly where it needs to be. I think that it also helps that now we're actually starting to stack the box. So there's more defenders are actually being focused on what's going on in the box, and actually everybody's just focused on whoever's running on, whoever's making the run or whoever's coming off of the wings. So that's been very helpful. If we kind of take a look at this first goal, right, with Robert Taylor, I think that teams are starting to notice how good he is as well, just from these past few games that we've seen. They're starting to notice. I know that on that first goal, I was kind of like pausing and seeing what was happening, and I noticed that as soon as he turns in and he cuts into the right side before he makes that beautiful pass to Messi, you've got Cartagena and 2 other defenders literally locked on him. They're solely locked on him. They know what he's capable of, because he's shown that he can shoot from that range too. So they don't know if they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we waiting for a pass, or is he going to shoot from there? And then on top of that, I think we had Kremaski, we had Yedlin, we had Joseph all in the box. You've got all the other defenders that are focused on doing that, so they don't even step out. And then Messi is starting from outside the box to make that run, and there's a miscommunication there between those two that were marking him, and just Taylor makes a perfect read. And again, those are reads knowing that they're already starting to understand what Messi's going to do. They know that Messi's going to make that run. So he's able to make the beautiful read, ultimately resulting in a beautiful goal. But yeah, I just don't know with Facundo Farias coming in. Like, I don't know how you take Taylor out, at least not right now. Like, that's good. that's going to be a really tough decision for Tata to make for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get into, the U22s in just a bit here, but for Robert Taylor, Ashley, I think that goal that you were speaking about that you said was like one of the goals of the year was actually earlier on this year. It was the second match of the season where
Was it
Taylor
really?
it was the second match of the season, puts it off the chest on his right foot, cutting inside from left to
Yeah.
right, off the chest, top of the box, and volleys it home. That was this year.
Oh
So
my gosh, time doesn't exist with Messi,
it
honestly.
doesn't.
I'm totally, yeah. And I mean, the pass that he had this past week was
Yeah.
world class. It really what it actually reminded me of. And if you had closed my eyes or if you only saw like the X's and O's and you saw that pass, that made me think a lot of a Harry Kane to Son ball. Like when they would do it and Son gets a ball over, he takes it in, he draws the defenders, Harry goes to the left, puts that ball right over. That is how much of a world-class pass and goal it was.
And that's a lot of high praise because I do believe Harry Kane is one of the most underrated passers probably in world football. But for Robert Taylor, he's been very successful out on the left flank as a left winger, out and out, cutting inside onto the right is where he's found all of his success with Inter Miami. There have been times where he has done well over on the right side, but it's been evident that over the last couple of matches, playing on the opposite end of Messi and being able to combine in a transitional kind of style offense is where he's succeeding most. And like I said, we'll talk about where Facunda Farias fits into this because he is also a left winger, but I believe somebody can check me on this, but I think Tata Martino kind of dropped a little hint about the possibility of him playing as a number 9 in his press conference today. So, there's a lot of different options there. But Robert Taylor, man, I am happy for him. He has gone through thick and thin with Inter Miami. Like I said, he's been moved around positionally a ton. He's played as a number 8. He's played as a number 10. He's played as a striker. He's played as a winger, and he's played as a wing back. And that's kind of the Phil Neville special. Don't get me wrong. He's done that with a lot of players in his time, including Benjamin Kremeski, including Lewis Morgan, Robert Taylor also. So there's been a lot of different things that Robert Taylor has had to go through. And now for him to be finding success with the best player to ever grace a football pitch is just outstanding. I'm sure that everybody in Finland is rooting for him, and everybody obviously in South Florida is rooting for him too. So are they the best duo on the continent right now? I don't think, other than Carlos Vela and Dennis Buranga, there's anybody else even touching them. But if they didn't just score 7 goals against Juarez, then I would be saying for sure. But that match for LAFC was insane. Let's move on to more of the attack, though, because we do need to talk about Joseph Martinez. He finally gets on the score sheet. Messi gives him the penalty. Ashley, what did you make of that? What did you make of Messi and the type of leadership it took from him to go ahead and say, Joseph, you take it?
Yeah, 100%. And I said it exactly in that moment when I was at the stadium that this was, Joseph needs to score. He needs the confidence. And I would say I think in the first half, he was very quiet. And a lot of times when you have some shorter players on the pitch that are non-negotiables, part of me was wondering during the first half a little bit, why are we not seeing Leo out here, Campana, with, to kind of bring some of the height and bring some of that back play. But, the goal makes a huge difference. It brings out, the confidence and the quality in it. And it's exactly what he needed. What's going to happen moving forward, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I think Campana deserves another chance to be able to be the starting number 9 with Messi. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but it was incredible leadership. I think Messi knows he's going to get unlimited amount of goals. I think he also knows that it's part of the onus is on him to bring the quality out in all the rest of the players. We just said it about Robert Taylor. I think in the last 3 games, you've seen DeAndre Yedlin's quality go way up. In my opinion, at least, you're seeing the midfield play go way up, and just everyone has a breath off of them. They feel a little bit less of a weight on their shoulders, and they're letting their skill set and their tactics really shine. So it was incredibly generous, and I hope it positively impacts Joseph's play even more, so that he impacts the game at even a higher level.
So, Gian, I mean, what's your take on the Campana versus Joseph thing? Where do you think, Tata is leaning? I believe personally that I think he's leaning a lot more towards Joseph, given the rapport he's had with him in the time in Atlanta, his connection with Lionel Messi on the field, and everything like that. But I mean, Campana has not played well alongside Lionel Messi or anybody that's been on the pitch in since Messi and Tata have been here. Has there been enough time to say that Joseph is the striker for Inter Miami going forward?
I would tend to agree with you. I think that Tata has kind of chosen Joseph over Campana because of a multitude of reasons that you touched on. One is obviously the history, so he knows a lot about him. It just makes more sense. Just this isn't preseason. There hasn't been a lot of time to really get to know the team. So you kind of want to get the ball rolling as soon as you can as a new coach with a bunch of new players. And if you already know how to use Joseph in a tactical scheme, that you kind of roll with that, right? Because again, they've had so much chemistry and so much history. And then to the whole Messi aspect, right away, we see that kind of coming together on a personal level. We see them together all the time on training. They seem to come out in every picture on social media. I don't know how they do that, but every picture is them two together. This is a funny thing that happened, but we saw, I don't know I forgot what game it was, but like he was sitting with Messi. Joseph was sitting with Messi. Messi couldn't see, and Joseph goes up like in front of him, puts the seat down. So like even just small things like that, it just shows like how well they're getting together. And then even on the pitch, like you see that they are starting to know each other so well. Like on that one goal where the pass from Joseph to Messi on the volley was just insane, because Joseph was right in the middle, right outside the 6-yard box, and he sees that the pass is going to come in, but as soon as he looks to the left, he knows Messi's going to make that run, so he comes back and makes space for Messi. So those are things that maybe another center forward would have stayed right in that spot and just taken the shot themselves. But they have that connection that they kind of starting to know each other and know what runs they're going to make, where to be for each play. So I think it's that, and also just there's different play styles. Like Campana plays so much differently than Joseph does. I think Campana's more of like a really like pure 9, waiting for the opportunity. Like you got to put the ball. He'll header. He'll be right there for a rebound. That type of thing. Whereas Joseph seems to be like more dynamic. I see him running everywhere. He's coming down sometimes to help in the mid. It's just more of a dynamic player, and I think that that's kind of what he's looking for right now in this in the tactics that he's using right now for the team. But I will say that in this press conference, Tata did kind of leave the door open, and he even acknowledged, he says, yeah, I know that Campana's getting a lot less minutes, but we're going to continue to work with him, see what happens in practice. But right now we're going with Joseph. So Campana, I think, is a professional, and he's going to keep working hard, and he'll be ready for whenever they put him in. So he's definitely going to keep getting his minutes. Just right now, for sure, I think it's Joseph.
And there's a couple things to add there. One, Campana has to stay on the roster because obviously with what they've done with the U22s, which we're going to talk about next, his role and his designation is extremely important for Miami to be able to build a roster the way that they have with Farias, with Aviles, and Diego Gomez. And also with Campana, as you talked about his play style, Gian, he found most of his success alongside Gonzalo Higuain. That is 100% truth. And a lot of that is because with Campana on the field, you could just sling it up to him and use him as a hold-up play kind of striker, find Higuain who's dropped a little bit under you, and then you build the play through there. That was under Phil Neville. That style of play is not happening under Tata Martino. This team is trying to build from the back, build from the midfield, use the spine, and actually progress the ball like a football team should, other than just playing long balls and playing this physicality style MLS kind of thing, where Campana was really good at, because I think that Campana showed so much in his time. I think back to right before the San Jose game last year, where he unfortunately got injured, how well he was playing going into that match. And we are finally getting to see him and Higuain like play alongside each other. And it was just going so well. And Callender was able to hit him up balls, and the hold up play, everything was going so well. And that's how Miami built their transitional offense. And now it's very, very different. So Campana has to find a way to adapt to the way that Miami and Tata Martino want to play. And I think with Messi on the field, all of that changes, and you're not going to see that style of play from Miami anymore. You don't see Drake hitting those long balls anymore. It happens every now and then when he's in a scram and he's getting pressured and he's got to launch it up the field. But I've even seen, I want you guys to look at this too in the next match. Watch Tata Martino on the sideline when Drake has the ball. He is pointing where he wants the ball to go. He is yelling at Drake where he wants the ball to go. And if he doesn't do it, Tata Martino's only focus is to look at Drake and tell him exactly what he wanted. So I think that it's going to, I think Drake's game is going to be elevated completely under Tata Martino because he's not been a great distributor. He's been a great shot stopper, but he's not been a great distributor. And I think this is going to help. But the stylistic change that is coming with Inter Miami and Tata Martino doesn't fit Campana right now because of what they're trying to do. With Lionel Messi on the field, you have to be more of a tactical team rather than long ball and hold up kind of team, which a lot of MLS teams tend to be just because of the quality of the league. But Miami are simply just headed in a very different direction. So there's a lot to unpack there with Campana and Joseph. We'll see how that plays out. And let's continue a little bit more with the tactics. We saw the debuts of Jordi Alba and Diego Gomez. Jordi Alba, we can talk about him a ton, but he kind of just speaks for himself. He's going to be the starting left back. Noah Allen, unfortunately, going to lose his place, but for the most part, he's learning under one of the best left backs in world football, which is going to be great for him in his career. We'll touch on that maybe in another episode. But Diego Gomez also got his debut. And these U22s are going to start rolling in. Tomas Aviles left Racing Club. Facundo Farias a couple weeks ago fully announced they're probably getting ready to start training here in South Florida. I believe Facundo already has. What do you make of what we saw from Diego Gomez? I'll start with you, Ashley. And do you think that the insertion of these high-profile young South Americans are going to change even more so what I just talked about, the stylistic approach that Tata Martino will have with Inter Miami?
Yeah, well, I mean, with Gomez, you saw immediately the energy, the hunger. A couple of them, I think he was, maybe a step too short, a step too late. He was adjusting, maybe a little nervous, but towards the end of the game, he was really starting to come into it. You started to see the passes. You started to see the vision of, just trying to take the game to the next level, not letting the game come to you, but attacking the game, which is obviously something that is part of, I think, Tata Martinez's overall philosophy, a lot more than Phil, which was kind of sit back and let the game happen. And so, yeah, to your point, I think we're not going to see it right away because the players have to adapt, except for Jordi Alba. He's going to immediately start at left back. I think Noah Allen did a very good job after Ian Frey was hurt to hold his own the best he could, in my opinion. But obviously Jordi Alba is leagues and leagues above, and he will get the starting position. In terms of our midfield, I don't know once everyone is here what the attacking third is going to look like, what our 8 and 9, or excuse me, our 7 or 6, 7, 8 is going to look like. It's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see, real competition. I think it's going to be hard to take Benjamin Kramaski out because he's been putting a real shift in, and, the Argentinian connection. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see who gets to start, who's going to be maybe a 60 to 70 minute consistent addition, how the attacking and the just overall aggressiveness is going to continue.
Gian, is there anything in the midfield that you think needs to be improved upon? You've seen Busquets and Arroyo and this like double pivot kind of thing being those strong, solid central defensive midfielders. Kremeshki being the one that kind of pushes the tempo a little bit, but adding Diego Gomez into that, who himself likes to get forward. Does he improve upon Benjamin Kremeshki? Does he replace Benjamin Kremeshki? Does he replace Dixon Arroyo at times? Like, where does he fit in, and how does he improve Tata's midfield?
I think it's a tough question because before Busquets' arrival in the midfield, I would have said like there's so much improvement in the midfield, right? But it's like just like each one, like Messi just improved the top side of our team, right? The offense. You inserted Busquets and everybody in the midfield stepped up. You insert Jordi Alba, everybody on our defense looks amazing. Our midfield looks really good. Kremaski's such a vital part of the offense now. It's crazy how he's like, not only is he doing a good job of helping, from the midfield, but it's just facilitating and putting balls. Like, he's such a vital part. So like, I don't know how you take out Kremaski. I think that's going to be really tough. But then on the other end, Arroyo has elevated his game tremendously since Busquets has gone there. And I feel like he understands everywhere that he needs to be. Like, I just noticed, like, when he needs to drop back and there's, especially with the way Tata's playing now, where he's got Noah Allen and Yedlin playing way high up, like, almost like at the top, almost like forward sometimes. Like, they're playing on the wing. Sometimes you've got Kritsov and you've got Miller by themselves, and Arroyo knows exactly when he needs to drop back, and he sometimes makes the line of three. He knows when he has to step up. He knows how to play well with Busquets. Like, they're starting to understand each other. So I think that, with Gomez, I think that Gomez is a really good player. I think that in this first game that he came in, he looked nervous. He looked kind of out of place because he was trying to figure things out. He didn't have a lot of practices under his belt. So I think that right now it's too early to insert him. I think that Tata's just going to, we'll see what he does, but I think that he's going to kind of ride with this team at least through the rest of the tournament the way it is, because it's working perfectly. I mean, you don't want to mess with something that seems like such a well-oiled machine. And if he comes in, I would feel like it would be maybe for Arroyo. Kremaski's just bringing too much right now to the offense. I don't think you mess with that, maybe for Arroyo, but I do think he starts to bring him in like incrementally, like a few minutes here, a few minutes there, and he'll start to toy with that. The tough part is when we get back, Gregory and, John Mota, like, that's going to be tough right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gian, I'm not going to lie. I disagree with you.
Yeah,
I think that Gomez should come on for Kremaski.
Yeah,
and I think that Kremaski, especially in this Orlando match, at times wasn't able to carry the load that Dixon and Sergio presented him with, because Sergio and Dixon were not moving forward at all, really. There were times where they stayed back and controlled it from there, and Kremaski had to be the guy to connect that, defensive midfield to the attack. And I think he was out of position at times. I think there were times where when he was on the ball, he got a little bit caught up. And I think that if you have, he's not even that much more experienced, Diego Gomez, but if you have a more experienced player in that role, and you saw what he did, the pressure, the intensity that he put out, having a guy like that to be the connector who wants to get forward, of course, Kremaski does too. I think it'll benefit Miami a little bit more, and have Benja, come on if needed later on for Dixon Arroyo if they're down a goal or something like that. I think that's how I kind of see it, and how it may go, but we'll see. It's up to interpretation. It's really only up to Tata's, but we'll see how that goes. And it might even start as early as this Dallas game on Sunday. The round of 16 will kick off on Sunday for Inter Miami. They'll be playing in Frisco against FC Dallas. A tougher opponent, that is for sure, than what we've seen from Orlando, Atlanta, and Cruz Azul. Guys, what do we make of this round of 16 matchup? And can Miami, or does Miami really have a chance to advance farther than any other team in this tournament to win this whole thing?
Well, I think you're seeing, so I have to say, you're seeing two of the greatest attacking players in the world, Messi and Jesus Ferreira. So it's going to be a real battle. No, I'm kidding. But I think it's definitely going to be the first real test. I think Orlando was an emotional test. Yeah. I think that Dallas is going to be it's going to be on the road. I don't really think that affects Messi, but it could affect maybe the younger players on the pitch. And quality. It's going to be a real test of quality, I think. And so I don't know. I'll let Gian go a little bit more into the details of the predictions. I think Miami's going to win. I think it will be a difficult game. But it's certainly going to be one to watch. The cards are completely different than they've been the last 3 games for sure.
Yeah, I think it's I agree with Ashley. It's definitely gonna be maybe the first test for real, because we've kind of been like rolling over our opponents, right? So it's gonna be the first maybe test of like adversity. Again, it's on the road, not in front of our fans. So I don't I agree too. Actually, I don't think that's going to phase Messi like at all, but I do think that we've definitely got what it takes to win, and I'm feeling pretty confident about the tournament as a whole, right? And just this tournament being the springboard to the last 12 games of the season. So I'm excited for the game. I'm hoping we don't have to worry about thunderstorms over there in Dallas, but yeah, it's going to be an exciting game, and it's a pretty quick turnaround too. So I know we're getting some practices in. I know we'll see what adjustments we make to what you had said, Austin. I don't know if we'll see Diego Gomez maybe inserted sooner rather than later, but it'd be interesting to see what adjustments. I know that's kind of been using the same tactics, same team. And then also just one more thing. I know that now, as we've been playing more games, they've been able to study us more, right? So let's see if Dallas is able to make any adjustments. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. Can Messi do it on a hot night in Frisco, Texas? That is the question that will be answered on Sunday. For everybody here at 5 Reasons Sports and Messi and Co., Ashley, Gian, and myself, make sure you stay tuned to all of our content in English and in Spanish. We will have all of the coverage for you. The round of 16 Leagues Cup match for Inter Miami going against FC Dallas again in Frisco. Will Messi be able to do it? Find out more. We will see you guys next time.